Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Wednesday, October 19th, 2022, and tonight we'll be talking about comic books and the paranormal. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me at the podcast page, which is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions, or if you have stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. And so the plan tonight is, as we always do with these episodes, is to cover a particular storyline in the history of comic books. And we try to pick the ones that have to do or have references at the very least to various paranormal and or occult and or mythological ideas and concepts, and in some cases even versions, and I will say that, of historical figures and possible goddesses or gods, depending on how you want to look at that term, and basically beings with a lot of power. And as always, I do not try to tackle these on my own because that would be too difficult. And so I want to welcome Derek back onto the show.
Hey, James. Glad to be here. Happy Halloween.
Same to you. Yeah. And it's funny, we were talking about this, and before we did a little voting thing, and we were both I was more interested in doing this one than the other two in a way. And sure. You were as well, and it worked out for us, even without us having to get involved there. So
exactly, yeah. I was ready to just pull the trigger and do this one anyways, but the voting ended up working in our favor, which was nice. This is actually one of the first events that I collected all the way through. This was I was really in the throes of buying a lot of books every week. Kind of, this is the prime of my reading. So this is coming off of DC Dark Knight's Metal. It's this big giant event. It's arguably my favorite. Between this and War of the Realms from Marvel are probably my two favorite events that I've ever read. That we'll eventually cover somewhere down the line, but they're massive. And after that event was over, they split Justice League into kind of three teams. They did a new Justice League #1, and then they did Justice League Odyssey, was kind of like a space traveling Justice League, and then Justice League Dark, which is all the occult characters. But the twist was that Wonder Woman was discovering that her powers were because she's from the gods, she was created by Zeus, that her powers are based in magic. So she became the leader of this new Justice League Dark, and this is a crossover event between the Wonder Woman title and the Justice League Dark title, and then its own title called Witching Hour. But it starts out pretty much right at the beginning of Justice League Dark, so it's 4 issues into Justice League Dark, so it's pretty fresh on that. But very spooky, very esoteric, a lot of cool themes. I'm excited to do it in general, but I'm even more excited that it's Halloween time. But it should be a fun one tonight. I'm excited.
Yeah, and I was just kind of skimming through. I didn't read the whole summary just so I could be surprised as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get to. I kind of hinted at it. This comic book version of a historical mythological god or goddess that I'll talk a little bit about why that's interesting to me once we get there. So
yeah,
if you want to start, and then we can go from there.
Yeah. And the cool thing about that is this Wonder Woman is similar to Thor and Marvel, where her mythology is based in actual Greek mythology and stuff. She was created by Zeus, and all those pantheons are real in this universe and stuff. So it's cool how they incorporate actual mythologies and everything. So all right, yeah. I want to try to add pictures and stuff. I took a bunch of photos and everything, but it's tough to do that and try to follow along the notes and stuff. So I'll try to pepper those in as we go. But
yeah, and then whenever you want to do that, just let me know, and I will take over for the reading of the summary here for a little bit, and we can go back and forth like that. So,
okay. That sounds good. So I'm pretty fresh on this. I just read it before we're starting the show. But I just want to make sure we include everything because this is kind of a dense story. But like right before we start, basically the first 3 issues of Justice League Dark, she assembles the team pretty much, and it's a pretty deep cut team. We have Bobo, who's like Detective Chimp. We have Man Bat, but he's like reverted to like he's like mastered his formula or whatever. So now he's like not this monstrous like giant like
Oh, wow.
man bat thing. He's like a super smart genius guy. So he's like kind of the science guy on the team. And Constantine's not on the team, but he's like he's in the story. Swamp Thing is part of the team. Satana, who's like, if you're not familiar, is like a stage magician, but who actually has powers. And her dad is like was like a famous stage magician who has powers. And there's a like a race or like a species like called like the Homo Magi in DC Comics, they're like people who are inclined like magically inclined. They have like the natural ability to do magic, which is kind of like what is the through line between a lot of characters that will pop up throughout the story. So Diana, Wonder Woman, assembles that team, and then they're introduced to somebody called the Upside Down Man, which I'll try to add a picture right now just because I want you guys to get a visual because it's pretty creepy. So this is from the issue right before where we're going to start, Feeding Time, where they're introduced to this weird, creepy character. So if you listen to just the audio, he's this guy with like this like just pale white creature, like humanoid creature, but he has like no face besides like a smile, but it's like upside down, like where his like eyes should be. So he's always like hanging upside down. So like the face is like so like the smile is right side up. It's just very weird, very sinister. But he's like the leader of something called the Other Kind, which is like this in this dark multiverse that was like just explored on the previous event, like Dark Knight Metal. All right, so that's pretty much all the backstory. So the issue starts with like a young Diana. She's like 12 years old. She's being chased through the woods by like this like monster thing. It's like 3 kind of like women fused together, kind of like 3 faces kind of fused together. She's running through the woods, and apparently she'd like follow these women, these like witches, into the woods to like see the ritual they're performing. When she was watching them, she showed them like during the ritual, like the witches had fused together to form like this like triple woman during this, and they like noticed Diana and they were like chasing her out. And then like it kind of flashes like this kind of glows all around her, and she kind of gets knocked out, and it kind of flashes back to the Mascara, which is like her home, and her mother Hippolyta is like questioning these witches, being like, what are you doing? Like what did you do to my daughter? What's going on? And like Diana had told her what happened, and the witches go, oh no, we don't know what she means. Like it's impossible. We go into the woods, we worship our goddess, but we never actually like meet her. We hope that she hears our prayers, but we never actually like meet her in physical form. So this is impossible what she's saying. And then like, oh great. So like the young Wonder Woman walks away. Like, so then Hippolyta's like, thank you for lying to my daughter, but what the hell's going on? What's really happening? And like threatens these witches. And then Hecate appears, like the triple goddess appears, and kind of tells Hippolyta that she's about to kind of take over the world. She's about to take over the magical world. And these witches are like are shocked, like, oh yes, thank you for coming. We weren't sure if our rituals and our sacrifices were good enough for you. And like Hecate just like kind of smiles and was like, they weren't, and turns them all into ash. And then tells Hippolyta that she won't remember what's going on. Like she doesn't want anybody to like understand, like know what's happening. So kind of erases her memory, basically. And then, do you want to try just for this paragraph, just have you go through it, and then I can kind of pepper in some details?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And just real quick, this is the amazing thing. Now, like I said, this is a comic book version of this this goddess that it has existed, and I don't know, I didn't think to look up the history on it. But the amazing thing about this is it's almost a synchronicity in a way, because as you know, I've been listening to podcasts for many years now about paranormal experiences.
Yeah.
And there have been people that have said that they've had encounters with various gods and goddesses and deities from around the world throughout time.
Yeah.
And one of them that has been popping up here and there this year. A few people that I've heard on podcasts have said they've encountered the real, or at least the real life version, or a real life version of this goddess.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's been popping up, like I said, about at least 3 times I can think of this year
Yeah, exactly.
alone.
It's,
And yeah,
it's very popular. I'm getting a little echo. You hearing the echo by any chance?
no,
Okay, all right. Just as long as it's not messing anything up. It's fine for me. That's no big deal. So yeah. So as far as pop culture references, if anybody's watched The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, there's a really wild Hecate kind of appearance / reference in one of the storylines in that, which is really cool, and kind of the first time I remember her being like referenced in pop culture, as far as I'm concerned. But in like occultism and stuff, like she's known as like the goddess of witchcraft, and like I don't practice witchcraft, so I'm not very well versed. And this is one of these topics where somebody who is well versed is probably like rolling their eyes listening to me talk about it, and might roll their eyes a couple of times during the course of the story. But she in conspiracy lore, she's the person who like you meet when you go to the crossroads and do like some kind of like ritual sacrifice. That's kind of the spooky version of her, but just in regular like nice Wiccan type witchcraft, she's like venerated also very closely and stuff. So she's somebody who like if you practice witchcraft, not in a scary way, just in a regular way, I think she's somebody who's like they're very familiar with. But again, I'm not well versed in that, so I don't mean to offend anybody with that type of stuff.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that was the thing that I wanted to mention, because it's amazing that this is popping up here as well.
Mhm.
So the story goes from there, that Wonder Woman, Diana, and then Zatanna, they're talking to the main Justice League team
Yep.
about their encounter and their fight with this upside down man. And when it gets to details about how they were able to stop this being, Diana doesn't want to go into detail because it gets to this emergence of these new powers that she's finding.
Exactly.
She
So what had happened is these like symbols, like the Hecate symbols of like the moon or whatever, appeared on her forehead, but beneath like the Wonder Woman band, and she like kind of glue all like glowed all white, and just had this new form of power that she wasn't familiar with, and kind of pushed out the emergence of these other kind and the Upside Down Man when they first tried to pop into our reality. But she was kind of very nervous about this, and she didn't understand it, and she didn't want to like introduce this to the Justice League and have them kind of worry about it, or think of her as a threat. And she kind of, I don't know, she was doing her own Justice League dark thing, didn't want to get them involved really in that side of it.
Right. And so so Zatanna ends up cutting the whole discussion short, and she and Diana go back to the Justice League Dark headquarters. But apparently after this, or without those two knowing, Hecate shows up and makes all of the main Justice League forget the whole debriefing. So they have no idea that any of this has happened. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Because they're all like in the like Batman's really worried. So like Zatanna and Wonder Woman pretty much tell them that they got it under control. Like they explain like the threat of the Upside Down Man, and that like this is a serious threat. This is like something we don't even know what their power source is. Like, nothing really seems to stop them. Like the more we do magic, like Zatanna does her regular magic, which is she speaks backwards. She's to say her spells are like anything she says backwards happens. And she's like she's not doing that throughout the course of the story, because when she does that, it kind of calls on these things from like the dark dimension, this like Upside Down Man. And they like Batman at one point asked him like, why isn't Dr. Fate getting involved? He's like the Doctor Strange of DC, but even more cosmic. He's kind of like kind of doesn't really get intervene with the mortal stuff. Like when he pops up in a story, it's a serious threat. And she tells him that like Dr. Fate actually brought these things in. Like he's tired of the chaos that's magic is causing in the world. So he's like trying to bring some type of new order by bringing these new types of magical monsters, basically. And that like he's the other threat, other than the Upside Down Man that they want to present to Batman. And then, but like as far as, but that they kind of have it under control, basically just presenting it to him. And they when they walk away, when they leave through the portal, Batman turns around. He's like, "Is anyone else super worried?" And they're all really concerned. And then all of a sudden, Hecate like kind of appears above them, and like mid sentence, they start talking about just some regular garbage about one of the B-list heroes being mad about some mission he has to go on or something. Yeah, and then it skips it in the description before we head forward, but there's a scene where it cuts to this like kind of meeting of all of like the homo magi characters. A lot of these like a lot of the like magic adjacent characters, kind of like, and just it's described as just any type of people trying to dabble into witchcraft, and just like all the kind of witch community gathering kind of in this one bar. They do it all the time, and then sometimes they venerate Hecate, and that she shows up like by possessing this character Witchfire. I think her name. She's what was a random character. I didn't know her before the story, but apparently she's kind of like Dazzler in Marvel, where she's like a rock star kind of character.
Yeah.
And but she got her abilities by selling her soul, like when she was like 17 or whatever. So all of a sudden she's possessed by Hecate, and then tells them all that like what they're doing is like not good enough, basically, and everything is so like chaotic and like destructive, or like she's not pleased with the current state of magic, and then like erupts in flame and burns them all, basically. And two of them are like able to escape through like a portal, and like Bobo, Detective Chimp, tries to get on the horn with Justice League and realizes that they're oblivious, like that Hecate during the spell made it so that people who aren't directly tied to magic aren't aware that this is going on. They're like, they cannot see anything magical throughout the course of these events. Like it's like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. That's pretty much where we're at. Yeah.
Okay. So,
again, this is just the beginning too. We're just getting started. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's a neat ability there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just looking at the rest of this here. So now, here's a place that sounds interesting: the Oblivion Bar.
Yeah. So this is what like Detective Chimp, like this is why Detective Chimp's on the team. Like this is a real like the Justice League of the arc, like the first Justice League, the first Justice League arc from the story before this was like the main occult DC players. Like that's the Constantine, that's the Madame Xanadu, and like all like the big players, like the ones that are synonymous with the occult side. But now they famously broke up during the probably 2 years beforehand. Now this is kind of the second iteration, kind of brought together by Wonder Woman. I think the only character that's the same is Satana is in it, and then Detective Chimp is kind of only involved because he's just like a really smart chimp who in one iteration was trained by like the circus to do all kind of crazy tricks and stuff, but then he was kind of retconned to be where he was brought to this fountain of youth and like drank from the fountain of youth. So now he's like that's what gave him his intelligence and his immortality, and he's been like chosen to guard this this Oblivion Bar, which is like this kind of nexus point of like all realities, the kind of all the like dimensions and the multiverse and everything all merge, all kind of like collide on this one bar, and it's kind of this like neutral place within the multiverse. And that's like, yeah, it's just comic stuff. It's trippy, but yeah.
Okay, so if we want to maybe go to this next paragraph here, I think, talking about Diana's new powers and how to control them, and the team, it says, now also with Constantine, who has joined them for the time being, heads to the home of Circe, who was a witch that served as excuse me, the protector of Hecate for a long time, it says.
Oh yeah.
And Circe offers to help after seeing Diana has these abilities.
So Circe, again, these are like deep in the lore. Like this is like James Tynion is the writer of this story, and his stuff is extremely esoteric. And this is kind of him showing off a little bit with just pulling all of the deep cut magic characters out. So, but I think if you're a Wonder Woman fan, she's a familiar character. But there's a god Cersei who pops up sometimes. She's gonna be, I think, in the Shazam sequel. But this Cersei is just a mortal sorceress. She's like one of the most powerful sorceresses in the universe, and is immortal. And she's like Wonder Woman's longtime villains, basically. So
Okay.
so when you first see her, she's like super like witchy, scary, like
Right.
and then when they tell her about like Hecate's kind of return and what's going on and the witch mark, and she finds out that Diana has been witch marked, she immediately switches back into just her casual wear, just kind of jeans and a shirt type of deal. And she's like, "Oh, this is serious. Like, sorry, I enjoy the campiness of punching all these and like playing the drama of all these superheroes because it's fun for me. But this is like the real deal. No more of that." And explained like how serious this all is and stuff. And I'm not sure if this is where they explain it. I don't want to like skip ahead too far, but basically, uh, kind of the witch mark idea is that Hecate kind of split her powers amongst like five different young girls, and like Wonder Woman being one of them. And like we don't know who the other ones are yet, but that's basically so. Like so right now Diana has a fifth of the most. Hecate right now in the story is the most powerful being that we know of. It's like more powerful than any of the gods, any of the pantheons and stuff. They're all kind of beneath her. This is like the source of all magic, which is tied to basically everything, according to the story. And Diana has like 1/5 of that, so it makes her kind of the most powerful being that they've ever really dealt with, up to this point, pretty much.
Okay. Now I'm just looking at this because there's a lot here to try to fit into one
I
show.
know.
But the next thing that's catching my eye is Zatanna and John decide to try to get Hecate out of Diana, to get that
Oh
power
yeah,
out of her.
yeah. So
Um,
yeah, so uh, like when the Upside Down Man came beforehand, he like they reversed it. But he kills Swamp Thing. He like turns Bobo into like mush, and then like pulls out Constantine's demon blood, which like keeps him, which is like a source of a lot of his power. And like he got it as a way to like cure his like cancers that he had. Basically, he was gonna die. Um, so the town is like, you gotta help. You're the only one that can help with this. And he's like, no, I can't do the magic that I used to have. Like, I don't know if it's because I don't have the demon blood anymore, or if it's because the Upside Down Man left a little something in me. But I'm sick. I'm sick again, and I can't do what I used to do. I'm just some exorcist who can do a little magic. And he's like, or not, the town is like, well, we can use an exorcist right now. So like, well, so Constantine laughs, and he's like, it's not going to work, but here we go. And they try to exorcise Hecate out of Diana, which is crazy. And then so like that might happen a little while down, but like meanwhile, Manitau Dawn, which is like this, just ends up being one of the other five young girls who got the power back in the day, got the witch mark back in the day, and she's like an immortal or like an ancient Atlantean. She's like part of the Atlantean race, but before they went underwater, like before the collapse underwater. So she's not tied to any of the water stuff or Aquaman at all. But she's just like this immortal, powerful being who's one of these like Homo Magi people, and now she's over in Nanda Parbat, which is kind of like Kamatash with Doctor Strange, but it's like populated by like it's like where the spiritual realm and the earthly realm meet. It's like where the dead kind of cross over, where the dead can like I kind of forgot about it when I was reading the story again. I kind of thought they were just regular monks, and then all of a sudden, when the action started popping off, when the witch mark, when like Minotaur Dawn starts attacking, they all pop out of their bodies and turn like into ghosts and attacking in ghost form. It's like, oh yeah, like they're all ghosts. So it's a bunch of like ghosts kind of that are possessing monks and like training inside possessed monks, basically. So Dead Man, Boston Brand, who's like the ghost superhero in DC, is kind of the avatar through which we're seeing the action here. But Hecate is just lighting this place up, and this is one of the magical centers of the DC universe, and she's just destroying it, lighting on fire, basically. And then, when this is all going on, like when this is like hopping back and forth from a lot of different sets, kind of all getting different pieces of information, realizing how big of a deal this is. And
Right.
Swamp Thing, and then the Swamp Thing realizes that he like gets the call, like he's tied to um, something called like the green, which is like all vegetation, all plant life, all plant sentience in the entire world and in the greater universe. I think but tied to at least all the plant life on the world. And he gets this call. He gets because he's tied to everything. Something's going on beneath. I forget where it is, but beneath maybe the Justice League headquarters or beneath Mandaprod plot, maybe like right below all this action, possibly. And
Okay.
realizes that Black Orchid, who is this like another Homo Magi character who ends up being another one of these witch marked, but she was like a kind of like a Weapon X type experiment, like special like Project 38 or something like that. I don't have it in front of me, but she's tied to the green, like so she's tied to all plant life, but she's also tied to something they call the red, which is where all the animal people, all like the I think it's like a Grant Morrison introduction, but like all like this, how Swamp Thing is tied to all the vegetation. The red is like the kind of the sentience behind all the animal powers. Like anyone who gets their powers from some type of animal like basis gets them from like something called the red, which is like kind of a trippy idea, honestly. So she's down there and she's trying to destroy something called the Parliament of Trees, which is the collective consciousness of all the green. It's like the Council of Green, basically, like the
Right.
brain of the green. And Swamp Thing freaks out and has to go down there and tries to fight her. And that's when John and Zatanna decide to try to exorcise Hecate out of Diana. And meanwhile, so like Diana herself, when she's being possessed by Hecate, she finds herself in the the collective unconscious with Wildfire, who is the one who like blew up that like witch meeting, who like lit everyone on fire, like one of the other witch marked. And
Okay.
it looks like they're on the moon. And at this point, it's all done in black and white. It's pretty cool, but it looks like they're on the moon, and they can like see the Earth from where they're sitting. But it's called the collective unconscious, and it's like but it's like Hecate's collective unconscious, and because it's Hecate's collective unconscious, it's like the collective unconscious of all the magic users and all of magic, and it's like this really trippy thing, and it's like and in like occultism, like the moon itself is tied to the collective unconscious, and Hecate is like tied to the moon in that way. So it's a cool thread. So as this is going on, like the two other with like the Minotaur Dawn and Black Orchid are also there, kind of, but they're like because they're like destroying stuff right now. They're kind of more in the thralls of Hecate, and then but then during the exorcism, like Wonder Woman is in excruciating pain. She's like like screaming like she's suffering terribly, and then also it looks like the other two were killed. But apparently, like their connection had just been severed from Hecate, and they kind of disappear. And then, but she's still there. So like Wildfire's like, I can't believe it. Those idiots, they really did it. Like they severed the connection, but they didn't think it through. And apparently, there's some type of like like the power moves from one person to the next. So if you sever the connection from the first person, it like then all the power flows to the second person. So the second person then has like two fifths of Hecate's power, and then if you kill that person or separate from that person, then the third person has 3/5 of it. So Wonder Woman right now is literally the most powerful person in the universe, and she has 3/5 of the most powerful being's powers, and it's like really overwhelming. And I want to like add some pictures here at some point because it's a really cool visually. But yeah,
There's something I want to mention too regarding
yeah,
that. This seems like a magic version of something that happens in an event we'll cover later
yeah,
with the Phoenix Force in
yeah. It's
Marvel,
very similar. Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah,
where it gets split up into 5 parts that go into 5 different characters,
yeah,
and they all become super powerful. But when one of them is, they don't have them get killed because that's their money. But
Yeah,
when one
exactly.
of them is knocked out, nearly killed, or badly injured, it forces that energy out of them, and then it gets split up among the rest that still have that power.
Yeah,
And in the end of that, near the end of that story, that leads to only one of them having all of that power. And again, literally almost driving them insane as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
So really amazing connection there.
yeah. There it is.
And that also goes back to this idea I've heard in various stories, fictional stories, but I wonder if there's something to it that if just because there's forces out there or beings out there, even creatures that maybe they seem like they're evil, it may not be that. It may be that they have so much energy in them for some reason.
Yeah,
Whether because they took it or because it was transferred to them. Whether they found they encountered it somewhere. If it's too much power, then it will drive them crazy, and
yeah,
so they lash out.
yeah.
And so it's not that they're evil necessarily. It's just that they're not even aware of what they're doing.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, and they're housing like a non-human, like a super powerful deity too. So like
right.
they're like you're trying to squeeze like a god into through like a, I don't know, a mountain through the head of a pin. You know, it's tough. Um, so where were we here in the description
Question.
here?
Let's
Yeah,
see.
we're all over the place. So I'll take it from here. So Constantine and them, they try to do exorcism, and then to get Hecate out of Diana's body, and then so we find out that all the power then converges onto Diana's body, and then she's basically invincible at this point. And she converts uh this mystical place named Parbat into like Hecate's kind of base of operations, the necropolis, which is so we find out that Hecate is like going after all of the magical hubs, kind of all of the magical kind of nexus places on the planet, which would be like the Parliament of Trees and Nanda Parbat, and like this kind of like this realm of the dead, and a few other places like I'm blanking on. Oh, the sphere of the gods, which will come up in a second, but um in order to like, she wants to just wipe out the established order of magic that like she's not pleased with what's going on, and in order to do that she has to wipe it all clean and then build it up from scratch basically. So she has to wipe out all these magical nexuses, these magical cities, and then build up her own hubs, which is this necropolis. And then so I guess like the last magical city to go is Olympus, which is like the sphere of the gods. So she opens up a portal, which I think I just posted that in the chat, the one with the Diana in the black dress and that kind of like bluish portal around her, and she's going into this kind of reddish city here. That's supposed to be Olympus, but at this point, the Olympian gods have all kind of uh, they don't want to be gods anymore. They don't want, like, they're not really, they like kind of fled Olympus kind of. We're not really sure why. It could be because of this or from other stuff that's going down, but they're kind of all watching from their own little like hideaways, their own little pocket dimensions, and their own little like hideaways on the earth, being like, oh, this is like figuring out this is really going down. And it's kind of cool how they did it, just showing all the different magical corners of the universe. Just kind of awestruck at just just the status quo changing as much as it is. So Diana kind of goes into there and just starts basically destroying this place. Um, and then so the flashes back to the collective unconscious, which is that like black and white moon world. And then like Diana starts to question Wildfire. So she's like, well, we're in the unconscious of Hecate herself, right? And she's like, yeah. So if in theory, like, we can go deeper into her mind. And Wildfire's like, I guess. And immediately Diana just dives into, or like says, like, I'm about to try to go deeper. You coming with me? And Wildfire's like, no, I sold my soul when I was 17. This is how it was going to end for me. This is like, it's either I go to hell or I get to watch the show from the moon. Like, I'm staying here. And she's like, fine, or whatever. And then she like hops in this like pool that's on the moon, just this like little mystical pool, and then just keeps swimming and swimming like deeper down. And she's like, I'm trying to. It says that like, even though Diana knows that she doesn't need to breathe under here, like her lungs are burning. Even though she knows it's not real water, she's not swimming through real water. Like her muscles ache and whatever. She thinks she swims. She swims for hours, possibly days. You gotta just keep trying to go deeper and deeper. And
Right.
finally, then like finally she's pulled out by some woman she didn't recognize. And then I'm not really following along on the thing, so I feel like I'm skipping all over the place. But
Okay.
like she didn't recognize this woman. She finds out that this is like Hecate is like known as like the triple goddess, like the maiden, mother, and crone. And she meets like the maiden and the mother in here, and that they explain to her that like the crone kind of personality has like taken over, and it's like the one that was upset with the kind of what was going on with the magic, and that like when was kind of triggered once the upside down man and the other kin, like the other kind, like emerge. It's kind of like sets her off, and she like kind of traps the maiden and the mother personas like down deep in the subconscious. So what we're dealing with right now, what this kind of the evil version of Hecate is, because this like the kind of the crone persona, like the angry kind of like smiting persona, has taken over basically. And then she explains the her kind of the origin story. So I took some screenshots, like I took like photographs when I was reading, because my DC app wasn't working. So I of the actual books, and I just thought it was cool to just read this like real quick if you don't mind. Just the actual like
Yeah,
right, I was gonna find it real quick. Any thoughts on that? Just while I'm trying to look it up.
Yeah, well, that goes back to these again. These one from many, which you see so many places. These and or even just the parts of a individual's mind. I mean, you can go there too. There's seems like there's a lot of parallels between both of those. And she's not the only one that I've heard of that is supposedly has more than one side to them. You know, if you look throughout mythology, you can find that many deities from around the world, they're known for having multiple sides.
Yeah,
And it can vary from one small region to another, which sides they focus on.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here we go. As soon as I read it, I'll post it in the chat so people can see. Because again, this is like we're explaining it, but if you think any of this stuff is cool, definitely should read it yourself. There's a lot of cool stuff in here, and the art's amazing, and I think people will like it. All right, so here we go. This is Hecate explaining. This is like the like I'm not sure if it's the maiden or the mother, but one of the two explaining like what happened to Diana. In the beginning, there was magic. It was raw then, a rich, burgeoning light of possibilities surrounding the still forming multiverse. Eons later, some would call the domain of the sphere of the gods. But this story begins long before gods. It begins when life was new and the first beings dreamt of the impossible. When from the incredible light, the first magical being shaped herself out of the cosmos to play in a realm of sheer possibility and delight, where any thought would be made real. It wasn't long before the girl sensed she wasn't alone in the dark. Beneath the sphere of the gods was a darker, other place, tied to the darker other multiverse. As she formed from the light, he formed from the darkness, upside down, staring up at her. Frightened, she created a barrier beneath her feet to hide him away. She did not want her beautiful realm of possibility sullied by the horror. To put the horrible creature out of her mind, she began to visit Earth, the center of this new multiverse, and watch humanity grow. She would give them touches of her magic to delight and astound them with the possibilities of the world around them. They gave her a name, which meant far off in their primitive tongue, as they believed she lived on the moon above them. They called her Hecate. As humanity grew, its beliefs grew in tandem, hardening into stricter forms. The realm around her began to splinter off into bold new forms, great houses to pantheons of incredible gods, each with their own mysteries and power. Each pantheon tried to win her favor. Each believed in their own creation myths and thought she was subsidiary to their story. She allowed them to believe it because it amused her to do so. man. Sorry, I'm trying to like read from like tiny little pictures
No
of
worries.
of the comics right now. Many offers were made from the pantheons to woo Hecate and incorporate her into their belief systems. Um, Ultimately, she agreed to take the hand of the Greek god of the underworld, Hades. The gods of Olympus welcomed her as one of their own. Even mighty Zeus recognized that her power exceeded his, but they expected her to shape her godhood into their own. She would be Hecate, goddess of magic. Her worshippers laid honey at the crossroads under the silver light of the moon, and she would come to them and answer each of their prayers. And so was for the age of man. But in her generosity, mankind noticed the immense power she wielded, power beyond the gods they worshipped. They sought the gift of magic to wield themselves in all its limitless might, mimicking the incantations they had witnessed from their visits to the crossroads. They summoned her and bound her to a circle, a fabrication of the moon itself. But men did not wish to be subservient to any god or higher power. They would force their own order on the universe. Years passed in captivity. Every day she prayed to her fiancé and her adopted pantheon, who had said they loved her dearly. One day, Hades came to her with a simple message. He had found a new bride, the daughter of the nature goddess Demeter. Her name was Persephone. He told her the gods of Olympus had made a decision. Hecate would no longer be welcome at their gates, and with that, he was gone. And in her screams, she felt which she had not felt in an eternity, the dark, upside-down mirror to her own great power. And in her screams, and Hecate began to scream, and in her screams, that's basically it. Roiling, so the dark, upside-down horror, to the dark mirror to a great power, boiling, toxic and dangerous, full of hate. That's basically it. Just explaining the upside down man. But
Right.
I thought that was cool, and I don't know how much of that is like in the actual Hecate lore or not. I don't know how much. It sounded legitimate to me. But again, I'm not an expert. I just thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know of about any of that, but
Yeah.
in a way, it makes sense because there's always this duality, this polar. There's these opposites. You have
Yeah.
that a lot in mythology and everything. So even if that's not based on much or any thing directly, it does make sense. So
Exactly.
yeah. Well, if you want to, I think we're to this nearly to this last paragraph here.
Okay. Yeah.
I think.
My page refreshed when I went to my photos though.
Oh,
So let me just
I mean,
try to find.
want
Yeah.
me to
Yeah.
start it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So yeah, we already mentioned that the two parts of the of Hecate, the maiden and the mother, are not happy with the crone, like we said.
Yeah.
And want her to be defeated. But in order to do that, Diana has to do something unthinkable, and that is getting a brief window of control back. It says. Diana opens the door again to the upside down man, which is the figure that kind of started this whole thing.
Yeah.
Who comes back and consumes Hecate herself.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is metaphor. I mean, this is like a whole. I'm sure it's not like terribly graphic because that's kind of. You're not going to get too terribly graphic in the comics, but
I think he's literally biting her. So like it was like right before like yeah. So she's like bringing in this. It explains that Hecate wants to bring in this other kind, that she wants to bring in this upside down man because she's going to use this new form of magic to like wipe out the old form of magic or whatever, and then replace it with like I guess her own magic again. It gets murky kind of basically, but it's essentially like to bring order to the chaos. Like she has to kind of wipe it all clean, which again ties into all kind of secret societies and that's kind of the conspiracy angle to like the order out of chaos angle. That's to try to bring a new order. You have to like wipe the old one clean.
right.
Yeah. So
And so yeah, and then so that happens. That's basically just a transfer of this power from one to another. Sounds like, and after that, that's basically leads to Diana losing these abilities, this connection to Hecate.
Yeah. So she's literally like being consumed by this upside down man. But then so again, it's all happening inside Olympus. So they kind of just like leave Olympus and close the door behind them, pretty much. So to allow Olympus to be destroyed, pretty much. So they know, kind of at the end, they know that the other kind, the upside down man, is closer than they've ever been. Like they're they're basically in our realm. They're like they're one room beside us, and they're going to be here
Right.
before we know it. And then like, but as the door's closing, as they're getting like farther away, she feels the connection to Hecate kind of wearing off. And then
Yeah.
so then that's essentially it. Kind of just saying that they know a new darker threat is coming. Like they're kind of the next arc is going to have to deal with this upside down man, like the other kind directly. But then it flashes back to Cersei, who is the one who kind of to start this whole thing kind of told Diana that the only way to battle Hecate is to like use her own power against her, which like during the story kind of really upset Hecate and like got like, Diana right in her sights and kind of but it was all of her own plan to kind of make because she's one of these witch marked to kind of make them sever all the connections to the other four of them, so that now she has all the power of Hecate, and Hecate herself is no longer around. She's kind of like now just essence kind of permeating all throughout the universe, but isn't really a deity anymore per se.
Right.
So now like the new goddess of magic, the new like embodiment of magic now is Cersei, and she's going to be the one who is the next major threat going forward in Justice League Dark. But it kind of ends with her maniacally laughing now, like looking like Hecate, like a redheaded Hecate version, like a half Cersei, half Hecate. Pretty cool.
That's amazing because again, that just shows that there's never any real. There's always a balance. There's always just a transfer. You're not going to, and it's in a way it's partly because they have to keep the story going, but I think it's also true in a way. You're never going to. It's that whole energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred.
Yeah, exactly. I like how they do the magic in the DC universe, though. How it's like all, it's like pieces. It's pieces of this god's magic. Like none of it's just like it's I don't know the origins of magic. You often wonder like where did it come from in the beginning? Like how do they come up with it? And it's just in this mythology, it's that like she did it kind of like just to play with them. She had all this power and kind of like gave them little pieces of it. That gave humanity little ideas, little spells, just little pieces of wonder, like little pieces of just it's I think they call it that, pieces of wonder, which pops up a lot because like she's Wonder Woman,
right.
And it like but then humanity gets a taste of that and decides to like lock her away and take it all. It's which is a metaphor for all kinds of stuff, like nuclear energy or whatever. Take your pick. It's just humanity trifling with things that possibly might be outside of their what they should be doing, for negative reasons. And
even when heroes try to use power,
exactly.
I mean, look how often that goes bad.
Yeah,
in the comics, in multiple companies. That's just that happens on a regular basis. That again, that's going to be something that kind of comes up later on. Once we get to that Avengers versus X-Men, that's just a whole string of this will be fine. We can do it this way.
Exactly.
It'll be fine. Yeah. And then it's not. And it's like, well, okay, we'll just do this instead. That'll be fine.
Yeah.
And no. So, wow. Well, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. But yeah, it's a complex one, and it's a lot of like deep cut DC characters and everything. But again, there's a lot of characters that I wasn't really that familiar with either. So it's the very beginning of the Justice League Dark. So if you enjoyed that, like hop in and give Justice League Dark's pretty fun. I'll try to like find another cool event we can cover maybe next Halloween or like way down the line. But there's there's a lot of cool ideas in the series because it's intentionally all of like the paranormal stuff.
Yeah, and that, I mean, if I could still be reading comics, that group was definitely one I'd be checking out. I mean, I'd be all over that. We were talking last night, about how if I was still reading comics, there's a lot. I mean, because I as some of you probably know already, I when I read comics, it was always Marvel.
Yeah.
And then eventually I had to stop reading comics, and then thanks to some of you here and Derek and then Rivers.
Yeah, shout out Rivers.
Hello, Rivers. Just pointing out all the amazing stories in DC, and it's like, dang, I wish I would have But that's the nice thing about doing these shows is at least we can kind of cover them and try to explain, a summary of them. And the nice thing is it's a summary. So,
yeah.
we're not really spoiling a ton.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And the art too. Like I tossed in a few pictures here, and like a lot of them I just like literally took pictures of my comics, so I don't want to post them. They don't look that great. Normally I do ones from the app, so they're more clearer. But like the app's a huge part of it. So if you're interested at all in what you heard and stuff, go check out the visuals because it's really really cool stuff in my opinion.
yeah,
Highly recommend it all.
and definitely. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, and always, like I say, if you like these shows, you need to be in the Discord.
Yeah.
If you like to hear about these comics, you need to be in the Discord because Derek does drop a lot of images, and sometimes other people do too. Drop out images that are related to the thing. So, yeah, it's definitely recommend you all join here. And
That was a fun nice little break from the regular continuity to do some Halloweeny stories. But next time we're back to the regular continuity, right? Regular X-Men story, right? Or
I
Avengers
think
story.
so. Marvel,
Yeah.
at least, yeah. We need to at least get through Avengers versus X-Men. That's kind of where I stopped, and then from there, we can definitely start covering a lot of different things. And
I'm excited. That was fun, James. Thank you. Sorry it took so long, but it was a complex story.
No, that's fine. I think people like these long episodes when it's possible. So
Good.
I appreciate that. So
Thank
thank you, and I'll talk to you in about a week and a half.
Awesome.
Michigan, Paranormal Michigan.
Yeah. Halloween, and the anniversary show. Yeah, gonna be a big deal.
Yep.
That'll be a fun one. Yeah. All right, James.
All
Thank
right,
you.
I'll let you go. Yeah, take care. Okay, so that takes care of that for today, and I'll be back tomorrow night with paranormal news. So until then, take care, and thank you all, as always, for listening to Salcedo Paranormal. Have a great night, everyone.